Yaber has been kind of mischaracterizing their projectors. So in one of them, their E1 projector, they were advertising that it was an 18,000 lumen projector. But I guess once it all was measured, it was actually 140 lumens. Like, what? How were they just picking random numbers out of the sky and they were like, 18,000 sounds great, let's sell it, and hope that nobody notices?
I had one that they listed at 1,600 that went down to 990. So they're all over the place.
Freakazoid, what's wrong?
Can't see anything. Sun in eyes. Must talk like this.
On this episode, we discuss David Labuskes retiring, Apple versus Adobe, and fake specs. All that and more on EDTech. EDTech episode 138, Apple and Oranges. Hello, AV friends, and welcome to another episode of EDTech. As always, we have our panel of awesome higher ed AV professionals. Well, I should say today we have one of our panelists, Ernie Bailey. Hey, Ernie.
Hey, Aaron. Glad to be here.
And now we have Rob Rasberry.
Hey, everybody.
Hey,
Thanks
Rob.
for having me. It's always great. Happy New Year, I guess I should say, right? So glad to be here.
Yeah. New Year, kind of the same us.
Yeah.
We'll see how this goes. And today's special guest joining us for this episode is Lisle Waldron from the University of Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome, Lisle.
Hey, y'all. What's good? Happy New Year.
Yeah. So Lyle's been with us before.
Yeah, I was
but,
going to say, Lyle's a welcome back. So.
Right? Yeah.
Glad to be here.
How has your year been so far? Your school year? I mean, it's...
Well, somebody decided to start a PhD. That's kind of been happening. So it's interesting being on the other side of the desk. Let's just put it that way. And it's actually super surreal because I've gone back to school where I started my first days as a tech. So I'm now sitting in classrooms that I once ran, wild in managing tech and doing all kinds of cool stuff. So it's been an interesting Inception type past few months. It's been weird.
Right. It's kind of you get to have one of those full circle moments.
Indeed. Completely full circle. Completely.
Yeah. So, and today is the first day of the spring semester for my university. And I'm sure that everyone's either started their spring already or it's coming up soon.
Yeah.
We're going with ours now. So it's been going, well, some of the classes started the first week of January. So
yeah.
We're in big time.
It's always interesting to see from school to school, like what they decided to do. Like we had a 2-week intercession between the holiday and the start of the full semester. But I feel like this year we're back almost a week early. Like typically we start the Monday after MLK Junior Day. Yeah. But this year we like jumped right from the holiday right into the madness of the semester.
Yeah, welcome to my world. that's what we usually have to deal with.
Yeah. So luckily, I have a team of amazing staff that are holding down the fort for me, so that I can do things like this.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, okay, let's jump into the articles that we read for today's episode. This first one comes to us from AV Magazine on avinteractive.com. Dave Labuskes, CEO of AVIXA, announces his retirement. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I know he has been CEO not quite as long as I've been like a member of AVIXA, but for a long time of it. Like, in this day and age of people kind of changing jobs quick and things, like it's amazing. It's great to see someone who holds a position for a long time and makes such a great impact. But so what will what will his legacy be for higher ed?
I think, we've seen a lot in the industry, and like you said, he's been there a long time. He's been there since 2012. That's a long time for a CEO in any industry, I believe. And I think he's done a great job. He's provided some leadership. He's opened some new doors, kind of changed the direction of part of AVIXA, which I think allowed for HETMA. Yeah. I think, I guess the previous leadership was more on the education side and educational technology. David has opened up some new doors for the industry, and I'm really excited about what's happened there. But I'm also excited about HETMA coming around. And like I said, I don't think it would have happened in the way that it did without him leading the industry in the way that he did. So I think he's done a lot. I think we'll see more in the education side. There's been a lot of exciting things in the within AVIXA as well, with the AMP certification, the Audiovisual Network Professionals. I think that was a great add-on and to what we already had with the CTS, CTSI, and CTSD, and maybe giving us some more things that we can get into along the same line.
Yeah, David is he is, I think, going to go down as one of the most significant people at that level in the industry. I say that because I think when you meet someone like David, it's really interesting. David has to deal with like a CEO of a company, Aaron, like Sony. But at the same time, David remembers the individuals sometimes walking on the show floor. I had the privilege once of working for a boss like him on the radio station. This guy, he's a entertainer and this big personality, and is known like in the entirety of the Caribbean. But at the same time, every person he's ever met, sometimes once, like he met Aaron once at like a concert or something, and you were there with the family. And the next time he sees you, like 4 years later, he's going to be like, Aaron, how are the kids? And you're going to be like, you remember me? I think that is, for me, a very telling sign of the level of detail and thought that David perhaps stewarded over his portfolio for the years that he did, guide AVIXA. And I think that was clearly a part of him being able to see the vision, like with a HETMA and everything else. To fill those voids where voids were necessary, but to be an agent for change and for futuring. It's really hard when one has to do that. But I think looking back at it, there may be a couple of things that David is going to say, I wish I could have done this, but, who does not? But from a top tier level, I'm not too sure who we're going to find in the industry that's going to really be that upset with David. He's going to be missed. And I think his fingerprints are going to be all over AVIXA for some time to come. That's really a good thing.
Dave Labuskes, he has this way about him, and it is just it really has helped HETMA get where it is as an organization, especially between supporting the Prism Scholarship and just all of the things that we do at Infocom that shed light on it. And it's been such a great partnership. And I hope that whoever fills his very big shoes is going to be as supportive of the higher ed vertical and the efforts that HETMA, it makes.
It was always interesting because I'd been going to Infocom for a while, and then, well before it became AVIXA, and just to see the very evolution of how the whole organization changed and evolved. It was like sometimes these training sessions or certifications were sort of, here it is, we'll just go with it and see what happens. We'll have some interesting subjects and stuff like that about technology. And then as he came in and made it evolve. It became an integral part and a necessary part of what AVIXA does with certifications, trainings, sessions, all kinds of demonstrations, these kinds of things. It was amazing. And I'm sure, it's been said before, inclusion, diversity, also, like you said, Aaron, recognizing the significance of the higher ed peripheral was very important. And you could just see the change, that happened over the years that he was there. So, yeah, he's going to be missed.
Yeah, because I'm thinking back to those Infocoms, early 2000s, us with the education badges would kind of just walk around Infocom and be like, but I think, under his leadership, our vertical has really gotten much more attention.
I mean, Aaron, in greatly positive ways. And I'm saying this again as the small school and as an international small school. By the time I got into the Infocom cadence, it was like 2007. And there was still that, you're right, there's that feeling of you have an education badge and you are not being taken seriously, right? Especially by the heavy hitters. And somewhere in some meetings with somebody, probably David, when that transition came, as Rob said, it's made clear to them that these people matter too. So even in that pre-HETMA iteration, I remember the whole EduCom, line, and then a fight to maintain it through the EDTech years. So I think one of the things, again, to his credit, specifically to higher ed, I think he's seen all as equal verticals that all deserve focus and attention. But I think for reasons that maybe one day he'll share in his memoirs, he will say why he's had a special, place in his heart for higher ed. And he's done such a good job just, standing behind it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, and Ernie, you might be able to remember this. Do you remember EduCom, Ernie?
I do.
Fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well, okay. All right. So
EduCom
it was like, there was EduCom and Infocom.
Yeah.
And so a lot of us would sort of like swing over to EduCom, even though it was about at the same time.
Yeah.
So you sort of had to hop back and forth. And then UBTech came and it sort of evolved that EduCom. For a few years, it was very, very popular to the point where, a lot of the higher ed people will say, do I really want to get to Infocom or do I go to UBTech?
Yeah.
And then for some inexplicable reason, after 2012 or whatever, there was a sort of this shift. And because you've noticed more relevancy, that may have contributed to sort of the fall of UBTech. And then, here we are. We're higher ed people. You're at Infocom. And then you got the partnership with HETMA and things are happening. This is great. Just another part of his legacy, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next piece, which can be found on theverge.com, written by Jess Weatherbed. Apple Creator Studio Suite is launching to take on Adobe. I mean, that is a statement and a half, but it sounds like, from what that article has said, like it's going to be an interesting to see how it all shakes out. Will Apple be able to unseat Adobe in the higher ed space with their new Creator Studio?
They're going to have to do something that I'm not sure that Apple and iOS is capable of doing. They have to create, if they want to really knock Adobe and Creative Cloud and say something, a big statement, they've got to create a cross-platform. That's what they got to do. I'm sorry. Adobe does it on Apple's side. It's great for the Apple people. It's great that you're going to create something that's like Creative Cloud. You're going to compete with it. But if you really are wanting to go that extra step, you're going to go cross-platform. But you know what? They might not need to. They may just say, hey, we've got our iOS people, our Apple people. We want them to have the same kinds of things that, the Adobe side has. Maybe they don't want to go down that route. I really don't know. It's, just my thoughts.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It looks like a nice product, but will they put it on a Windows box?
Never.
And there are too many of us that are locked in on Windows. You know, I've got one guy with an Apple. You know, and Adobe's doing everything they can to open the door for Apple with the way they've redone some of the business side of their deal. It's driving our buyers crazy, and all of our techs. How do I keep it working and everything else? So once again, if Apple's willing to make it work, they tried some of that stuff years ago and never got anywhere with it. With some of their Office products, at the same time that Office or Microsoft was making them available for Apple products, Apple tried to go the opposite direction. Well, that never seemed to work out. Yeah. So, if they try it again, I would definitely consider it, but I'm going to have a hard time, having to buy both platforms, or both tools, because I've got some people that need to run on Windows for some of the other products they're running, and so we've got the Adobe suite, but once again, Apple's always got very good creative tools, but I'm not going to make everybody switch over and learn everything new to be able to use that one thing.
So I got a few thoughts on this. While I am a core IT guy, I am also in many ways a creative. For those who don't know, I used to be a DJ a long time ago. So I still have my MacBook Pro downstairs with my M1 Max, and boy, oh boy, it's the greatest processors I've ever seen in my life, period, full stop. A lot of the times when we have this discussion about Apple, we're still coming from the bad old days of 2015 to like 2020, with those ever running hot Intel processors. Intel just could not get what they want to get done. And everybody knows about Apple Silicon and what happened. I think I'm coming from this from a totally different perspective because of all of that as my background. So they're never going to bring that suite over to Windows. That is not on the table. It's not going to happen. We should not do future prediction, Aaron, in this day and age. But I'm going to stick my head out there. Somebody go on one of those betting sites. Lisle said it'll never happen. Let's go, plus or minus, whatever. But I think really the issue here is less on the Apple side. Because I want to, when I read the article, because I'm a heavy reader of The Verge, that's what she thinks they're doing. It's not necessarily what I think Apple is doing. Apple, as usual, is trying to fill the gaps for their user base, and they always do. And in particular, this is them moving to a subscription model, even though you can still go perpetual. So they want some of that. The real question here is, what is the problem with Adobe now? And I think you all kind of touched on it already, which is the licensing and the keeping it running. Adobe right now in the creative community, there is a massive, massive rejection of Adobe products because of what is being seen in two ways. One, the licensing and the issue of money, and this attempt to just wring it out, just get that towel till it's dry, right? But worse, a lot of the times when Adobe has run updates in the past year and people looked at the terms of service, Adobe is actually trying very hard to get into ownership of IP of products made with Adobe. Yeah, right? So it's getting weird. So I actually think this is less about Apple and more to look at spaces like what Canva did buying Affinity last year, or was it the year before, for like $380 million. You want to get Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign competitor. Affinity does that. It's free. Just go sign up. You don't need anything with it. People are having a semi-revolt with Microsoft right now because of the AI integrations that they're kind of forcing. But fun fact, that's a problem with Adobe as well, which is where some of those IP considerations are coming. So I pull all this back to say to you, for now, Apple's not really good at the AI stuff, sadly, right? We know what's going on there with Siri and Gemini. But I'm seeing this more as an attempt for Apple to get back into its own workflow. There was a time when I used to do a lot of video editing, and Final Cut Pro works seamlessly with Motion and works seamlessly with Compressor, and you can do like cloud rendering and all kinds of cool server farm stuff. I think they're trying to get back to that because Adobe has lost their center. So if you add the iOS user base with the iPhones that are extremely, extremely powerful right now. And the kinds of video quality you could get from an iPhone Pro Max is just insane, like raw footage and everything else. This is kind of a merging of those two realms. So you're looking at like a billion user customer base that now can say, you know what, Adobe, no thank you. So I think the issue really is more on the Adobe rejection more than it's an Apple expansion.
Yeah, because I think that you were onto something where this is more for the creatives.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't like to take the regular Windows users and try to bring them over. It's just trying to make a better product and a better financial kind of opportunity set up for those creatives who are already kind of Mac users, or those that are on the fringe that are kind of like, maybe, and that'll push them over.
So, Aaron, let me carry you back to before my beard had grease in it. There was a time when if you were going to edit video as a serious day-to-day job, there was no question you were going to get yourself a Mac, right? Like a G4 Tower or like a G5.
The trash
G5
can.
kind of push up. Yes, even before the trash cans, right? The big monstrosities. I had one of those back in the days. I was the coolest kid on the block. Dual 32-inch monitors, like serious nerd stuff, right? Like readeries and all that good stuff. The only other competitor on the Windows side was if you bought a turnkey Avid rig. In those days, you could spend a couple, $10,000, $20,000 on an Avid Windows rig. But then the question would keep coming back. It's like, well, why am I spending all this money on a Windows rig when at the time, I want to be fair, Windows really did not do well with media. And that was because of the core OS and how it dealt with things like files, file names, paths, renaming, like really weedsy stuff I'm not going to get into. So at the time, the only show in town really was Final Cut Pro. When I was editing on Final Cut Pro 1, it was unimaginable. The kinds of things we could do. So yeah, you're right. I'm not sure that this conversation is for Ernie's users outside of the one person with the one Mac.
Right.
It's definitely for that one person. And we probably are not going to have a ton of licensing things because it's just that one person. But for everyone else, well, where do you want to go? Some people are going to run off to DaVinci Resolve and other kinds of apps like that allow your workstations, allow your video editing to happen without getting locked into that ecosystem. The one thing, to close this off, the one thing that Adobe has in their corner, bar none, is the ability to take a Photoshop file and stick it over here and vice versa on an audition session and put it into a Premiere. Great. Cross-compatibility, fantastic. Should I need to pay excessive amounts of money every month now, or a huge sum of money for, in theory, a perpetual license that they are going to depreciate to get access to that cross-pollination, when there are central file systems that could do that for you, PNGs with, transparency and blah, blah, blah. So that is where the real $1 million question, I think, is. I don't think the article was wrong. I understand the thought, but the idea that Apple is trying to expand there, right now, Apple has one thing they're trying to figure out: artificial intelligence. They are not trying to get themselves caught in that software trap at all.
Right. Well, and it probably goes back to also who their audience is. Mm-hmm. It's the creatives, and the creatives are not happy with AI at all. No. So I think that, it's kind of a smart move on their part to kind of focus on that. And then, it's all of the AI tools that are built into the art softwares is for the casual user who just wants to create some cool looking stuff. And then the creatives get not happy.
And trust me, Aaron, it's been super shady on the Adobe side. People not able to cancel subscription just running in the background while it's some real low level, low hanging kind of scammy. What are we doing, Adobe? So really the issue is less on what Apple's trying to proliferate and more just everybody right now is like, what can I use not name Adobe? How far can I run from this? Right? It's where it's at.
Yeah, it's going to make them some money. Just stay within your core and do it. They'll be happy with that. Yeah. Totally agree.
There is an interesting murmur, just as a final footnote, on Apple's choice of a subscription plan as well. But I think until we have a tectonic shift in terms of the current business model of operation, that was to be seen. It made sense. They are going, everybody's going subscription at this point.
Oh yeah.
From a PlayStation to a PC, it's everywhere in between. Microsoft is probably going to go Windows subscription, or at least try to do it again at some point. So
Yeah, it is a model that people are becoming more and more comfortable with, or just, I guess, resolved to deal with.
Yeah,
yep,
they've accepted it.
Netflixification of all things.
There you go.
The Netflixification of all things. So,
Well, all right. This article is on AVNation.tv. Epson settles projector brightness lawsuit. So if you're not up to speed on this one, so the Yaber, I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that correctly, has been kind of mischaracterizing their projectors. So in one of them, their E1 projector, they were advertising that it was an 18,000 lumen projector. But I guess once it all was measured to the ISO standard, it was actually 140 lumens. Like, what? How were they just picking random numbers out of the sky and they were like, 18,000 sounds great, let's sell it, and hope that nobody notices. But like, how? But what do I know? Like, I don't go out there with a meter and check all of my projectors to make sure that it is as advertised. Like, how much do we trust and believe in, like, any of the specs that we're given?
Well, not anymore. That's for sure.
They said their other one, they had one that was, they listed at 1,600 that went down to 990. So they're all over the place.
Yeah.
And Aaron, we do go in with meters when we're looking at new projectors. And I will say, we have a lot of Epson projectors. We have a lot of Sharp NEC, and they ring true. Okay. The name brands, if you go to Yaber's site, I've got to say, they call themselves a home theater. They look like little toys. I'm not, I wouldn't be looking at that as a product for our campus anyway. But yeah, when we look at the name brands, the known ones, our meters ring out, exactly, or real close to what they say. There are environmental differences, I understand, but going from 18,000 to 140, no, thank you.
It was so comical, Aaron. It was when I was following this for like however long it's been going on. I was like, this is kind of ridiculous. I don't know, maybe it's our former British ties, but I've always pronounced it Gabor. I think I'm probably wrong. I'm gonna go with your version. So forgive me if you hear me, I guess, Frenchify it a little bit, Europeanize it.
I just like butchered Englished it.
We forgive Americans for a lot of things. Not only one of them, so it's fine. But the thing about it to me that was crazy is, I think Ernie, finger on the pulse there, this has nothing to do with us. This is not a higher ed thing. It's not an integrator thing. It's not an enterprise thing. This was for a guy who converted his basement into his home cinema. And his buddy down the street had 20,000 lumens. So he needed to find 30,000 lumens because bigger number, more macho. So they came along and said, 1 million lumens. It's nice, right? It's got 1 million lumens. So I don't think this was a us thing, which is why Ernie's right, it's not going to impact us. But when I was following this for the year, I've always said to myself, Aaron, that there's a thing, like, I like cars. How do I actually know that is a 4-liter engine in there? They told me it was a 4-liter. And when I asked my magic elves to go in the engine and measure it for me, they said, it sounds like a 4-liter, but it's really 3,998 cc's. I don't know. So there's a point at which, Ernie's right. I'm happy that he's going to go measure it, but I have to have some faith in my manufacturer. And this is where, again, we'll come back to I don't want to just go establish brands because they can mess this up as well.
Right.
But I think with Epson looking at Christie, looking at, Sharp, NEC, looking at Sony, it's kind of like the Spider-Man meme. We're just waiting for somebody to mess it up so we could go, aha, and get their market share kind of thing. So I'm fairly certain, nothing's fairly certain anymore. I'm fairly comfortable saying to myself, if I bought projector brand X from established company Y, that it's going to hold the fort. It's going to be as close to advertised as possible. And hopefully it will maintain that for more than a week and a half. Because I'm sure, Ernie, if you go back in like 2 weeks later, it's going to be like 4 lumens less and then 10 and 15.
Do any of y'all remember the old projector shootout we used to do at InfoComm?
Oh, yeah.
And that was where we saw a big change, and we saw people living up to standards at that point when you walked in and you could see the Panasonic with one eye and the Epson with the other, and you could tell a difference when they both had the same specs up. The next year, everybody was sticking to the standards. And
everybody was firing bulbs.
Or they weren't in the projector shootout the next year. They didn't enter anything if they weren't going to match the standard that was out there. And I think that you need something like that projector shootout or something on that order to keep these people honest. And, if they brought in their 18,000 Model E1 and put it up next to the, like I've got an Epson 22,000 lumen projector. Let's put them side by side and see the difference. My 22,000 lumen projector requires 240 volts and 4 people to lift it up on the counter.
Right.
It better be up to spec then.
Yeah, there are 18,000 lumen. One will fit in your pocket.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You're kind of like, that's a kind of a dead giveaway.
Yeah.
For those who know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's scary that somebody would do that.
Yeah, so and there's a bigger issue here. It's accountability. Yeah. Okay, you trust those manufacturers, and they also know that they're bidding for setups that are so much more astronomically profitable, for them. So if something goes wrong, you're going to hold them to the fire. Institutions, corporations have legal teams that will come after you. When it comes to home theater, that's not going to be as much of an issue. They're going to look at, I'm saving X amount of dollars, but I've got this big lumens projector and da-da-da-da-da. And they're not going to go in and specifically check the specs, check the warranty, check all that stuff. They just want to know it works. And you know what's going to be messed up about this is Epson put them to the fire, but this other company, if their projectors just work decently,
it's going to be good enough.
They're going to forget about this. They'll be like, it's a little, so it doesn't have that much lumens. It looks great in my home. That's all I care about.
And in a home theater, you generally set it up dark anyway, right? With a bright white screen.
Light.
Yeah, no ambient light, a good reflective surface. You can make a lot of projectors look decent in that situation. And you're watching, second run movies. Probably anyway, at the most, or Netflix. Playing video games, and it's a good picture. But if you're going to put on there that it's got so many lumens on it, it needs to be set to the standard. You can say it's super bright. Don't say it's 18,000 lumens.
100%. No, 100%. I think though, Rob now touches the other thing that is critical. Again, not looking at us, which is the good enough for everyone else. Listen, Yaber, they're a named company. You can go on Amazon right now and buy 1 million unbranded projectors. There are a ton of them. They hold to no standards. And I mean, I'm living in a country where we don't have a strong exchange rate. I've walked into enough spaces and seen unbranded projectors, right? Home spaces, over somebody's pool outside, because the calculation they made, Rob, is look, I could buy one of these for $50, for $150, and if I get 3 years out of it, it dies, I spend another $150. The problem that Epson has here is they play in the entire vertical from budget projectors all the way up to high end, like a Christie's high end, right? They don't go down there. And then they play in the horizontal of this idea, which is from home to business. So this has direct impact on them. And I guess unlike all those unnamed projectors that are just, unbranded projectors on Amazon, this was somebody they could target and point. But I guarantee you, because this has been a thing for other electronics, if they try to get, company X on Amazon tomorrow, they're just going to change the name to, XYZ. And it then becomes a whack-a-mole that nobody could do. So maybe they got some more awareness from that demographic of customers. But I would hazard that for the basement guys who are not going THX because they don't have like a 50-bedroom mansion, Ernie, they don't care.
Yeah.
You're just going to swap it out and get another one.
Sort of like, and I hate to say this, and people, now I'm going to get in trouble for saying this. I know I am.
He says in advance.
When instructors buy Amazon adapters for $2 or $3 and then connect it in and wonder why half the time it doesn't work.
Yeah, you're going to get in trouble because I have one of the greatest $2, it was not $2, Amazon adapter ever in the history of adapters. So much I've bought 4 more of them and I've almost standardized on them fully personally. So it's great. There you go. You're in trouble.
But I would hope that the specs of it isn't over promising what it's going to do.
Yeah, right. That's with everything. There you go. There it is.
Truth in advertising. Like
the root issue, a 900 lumen device saying at 20,000 lumens. Yes, it does not do that. I promise you, it does not do that.
Well, gents, this has been another fantastic episode. Thank you so much for joining me in this fantastic, wonderful conversation. So, after this episode airs, Lisle, how can anybody reach out to you?
Yeah, so I've been doing this thing of late that scares people because I'm going totally old school. People can call me. Yeah, not LinkedIn. I don't want to do LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where I have to pretend everything is great so that my boss doesn't see. I want people to call or message me. iMessage, WhatsApp, phone call is fine. iMessage calls are fine. You can get me at 868-683-2442, which just also happens to stand for Big C, for those who remember numbers and letters back in the days on phones. So yeah, just like message me directly, or you can shoot me an email at my UTT account, lyle.waldron@utt.edu.tt. But a phone call is cool.
I mean, how are we going to beat that one?
Yeah.
Nah, call me. I'm out there.
But yeah, so Ernie and Rob, how about yourselves?
You can hit me on LinkedIn still, at least for right now.
Yeah. Well, I do want my boss to see me in the best light, so I'm on LinkedIn, so I'll just behave myself. That's
been. And as for me, you can find me on LinkedIn, on the HETMA community, and each month here on AVNation's EdTech podcast that can be found on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find other AVNation podcasts like AV Week and Women in AV, and more on there. So see you next time.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
This is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.